got to come after you. And I love the fact that him and Spotify, the CEO, kind of like, okay, and they just brushed over it. I'm shocked to see what to me right next.
This is the least shocking news ever. Because I remember 2020 when we were in Dallas starting PBD podcast. There was breaking news. I don't know. It was right in the middle of COVID, maybe June of 2020, I want to say. And it was like breaking news. Joe Rogan's leaving YouTube, going to Spotify. $100 million deal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We're like, what the hell? This is what?
Yeah.
It was shocking.
Yeah.
Turned out it was actually $200 million deal.
Yeah.
So we didn't even have the numbers right because he kind of slow played that. But to me, this is the equivalent, like in sports, just locking down your star. Whether it's Mahomes signing with the Chiefs, whether it's Joe Burrow with the Bengals, whether it's Bucks, you're locking down your star. There's going to be some sort of hometown discount for loyalty.
Oh my God,
he
yes,
go
dude.
elsewhere, get more money. But to me, Joe Rogan seems to be a creature of habit. He keeps his circle very tight. He's very loyal. Don't forget, Daniel Ek had his back during everything with COVID. So I think that this was inevitable and good for Joe.
I tell you what, again, sometimes I go into restaurants, and such a bad thing, and I say that I'd love to run a restaurant one day and just treat customers royally,
Yeah.
and use data and paying attention and a little bit of being nosy. And when people are talking to see how it can make their day better, shout out to Will Guidera, Unreasonable Hospitality, just because you're curious what it's on. I'd love to one day run a sports team just to see what it's like. In a past life, I would have loved to have been an agent representing certain talent, certain people, right? Managing certain talent, being an agent, negotiating on their behalf. I knew of a deal that could gone Joe $350 million. Okay? Yeah. And by the way, here's a part you got to realize, okay? Why Joe is very different and very unique. Spotify knows they have a great deal here. Spotify knows they underpaid. And, it's important for Spotify. You're getting somebody that's still very young. How old is Joe? About
56?
56 years old. He's 56 years old, and
If I'm right, that's crazy.
and probably the average 25-year-old's butt,
I'm just happy to hear that 56 is still considered pretty young. Joel, you need to show them all of us in this room at the same time.
But the point with this
Give
is,
me a gorilla.
but the point with this is the fact that even though he could have gotten that kind of money, he stays. Shows a lot about his character. You don't want to be an athlete that plays for 4 different teams. Like for example, let's just use NBA. You don't want to be the guy that, let's just say you get drafted into Cleveland and then you go to Miami and then maybe you go back to Cleveland and then you go to LA. Not that anybody would ever do stuff like that. You don't want to be a player like that because you're constantly changing teams. You want to be a guy that comes straight out of high school, goes and plays for one team for 20 years, and your name is Kobe Bryant. You want to be the guy that these guys gave him a great offer, Spotify, and he's like, listen, man, you had my back when they wanted to cancel me because of those videos and audios. Guess what? I'm going to have your back, and you don't forget. Those types of people who remember when you had their back to come back and do that for you, and it's not just about money, you got to salute. Respect to them. I think Spotify won, and I also think Rogan won because now the audience will be able to see it not only on Spotify, but also on YouTube. Don't know how they're going to structure that, but I think it's a great negotiation, great deal, and they weren't solving for money only. They were solving for growth, expansion, future, partnership, and I like that. I think the meeting was probably, and by the way, just so everybody knows, I have not spoken to Joe about this deal, not this much, 0. So it's not like I know anything about the deal. He hasn't called me about the deal. We haven't talked about the deal. Nothing. Nothing that is just about the fact that I know I had one offer for him. But the deal is done based on Spotify also wanted to ask. I foresee that in the negotiation being, hey, what do you want to do to make the deal better? What's important to you? And I think one of the things Joe probably wanted to do was to make sure the growth in YouTube continues, because he's not far off from, growing that exponentially. He's already there as a number one guy, but I think he can even take it to a whole different level. Anyways, congratulations, Spotify. Congratulations to
To Joe.
To Joe as well. Yes, Bill Maher. That was an interesting podcast. You guys have a chance to...
Yes.
He watched it twice. Tell me about it. You watched it twice.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Not once, twice. So, you said, guess how much I spoke versus he spoke. Before we even saw the interview. And I was like, I don't know, you probably spoke more. You're the one being interviewed. He probably spoke 80% of the time at minimum. Fair number or no?
A guy tweeted saying Bill spoke 80. I think the top comment was Bill spoke 87% of the time.
87%.
Yeah.
When he's doing the interview. So the interview has 15,000 comments, you said at this point?
Something like that, yeah.
Insane. I think the credit goes to you, PPD. What was that?
Keep going.
Okay, the credit goes to you for this was you the whole time. The Gavin Newsom thing was interesting. How he says, what he said, Vinny?
I did the Tom. I actually wrote. So
Yeah.
first of all,
So the poking, when you're like, so, because Democrats love data. They're data driven.
Yeah.
Data, statistics.
no,
They love it. They love it.
It showed me. First of all, in that interview, you exposed him. Okay, without his writers, Pat, without his liberal audience, in the what's the show, Real Time with Bill Maher,
Yeah.
that are told when to applaud and when to. This is a moment where you got to find out who he was as a individual by himself with nobody else helping him out. And here's my thing: anyone that could utter the phrase, "I love Gavin Newsom," with a straight face and be honest with themselves, loses all credibility when it comes to anything political. I don't want to hear any of that, okay?
And not be his wife.
Yeah, exactly. So, and he goes, because you said you're a results-driven guy. Why he
Because
wants?
he said Democrats are more detail-driven.
And you notice how when you were like, okay, give me the fact,
Yeah.
okay. There's zero answer for why you're going to vote. It's the anything but Trump attitude. And then regarding his abysmal way Newsom has run Cali to the ground, this is why he loves him too. Besides the slick hair, which he kind of got my style. Nothing that's happening in California really affects Bill Maher. Think about it. He's filthy rich, so he doesn't care about the 60% in taxes or the record high gas prices because he can afford it. It's cover charge he can pay. Yeah, then with this up, he doesn't care about the high crime in Cali, Pat, because he lives in a safe area that probably has gates and security with guns. He doesn't care that he doesn't have any kids, so he doesn't care that the California education system is so bad that 2 out of 3 California students failed to meet the math standards, and more than half didn't meet the state's English standards. He doesn't have kids. Nothing that affects the average person bothers him. So he's just like, yeah, that smug, arrogant attitude. And I think you nailed it because you stayed calm. And facts always win. And when somebody can't give you answers or back up their claim, you made him look ridiculous. And that's why 15,000 people are still commenting right now, because you could have, by the way, amazing socks, PBD, just throwing that out there. But when you say, give me an answer why you love him, and he goes, okay, there's no answer. Why? You're voting for him because he's not Trump.
Maybe play this clip, Rob. Just play this clip on the exchange with on Newsom.
Do you like Newsom? How do you feel about Newsom? I had him on my show Friday. I saw that. And first of all, I love him. You just like a guy or you don't. I've known him for a long time. He's done my show for a long time. Do I love everything he does as the governor of California? No, I don't. I wouldn't say I'm undertaxed. I have issues with this state. He's a guy. One reason I want him to run for president, is because he's obviously a winner. This guy could fucking do it. It's insane that we have the guy, but we can't run him because we have to tiptoe around Biden and the final winner. He would win the election. So he would win the election.
He's a talented debater, speaker, communicator, defector.
And politician, and he's a smart guy. He's a smart, real guy with a pair of balls. Do I love everything? No, you never do with a politician. But first of all, I think if he ran for president, it'd be great because it would force him to move to the center. Now you're running not just in California. I mean, this is California. It's weird.
Are you a results-driven guy?
I love this.
No, I like to think.
You wouldn't be able to show that you win at the levels you won, for decades if you weren't results driven, right? I mean, you're Bill Maher.
What do you mean? what's the point of my
That's
results?
exactly where I'm going with you. So results-driven guy.
Right.
What areas has Newsom won? You said he's a winner.
Winner of the election. He could win the election.
But based on what, though? Do you want results? Like, what has he done to California to say he's a winner?
Oh, God. I don't know. It's too...
He doesn't know.
He made it rain, okay?
By the way, now do me a favor, go to Twitter, exactly what I just did. So I actually wanted to know, because there's no way in the world you've ran a state and you don't have victories, right? Let our big victories. So I put on Twitter, serious request, could someone list 3 things Newsom did to improve the state of California? I'm curious. And if you go to the bottom and go through comment section, this thing, the wars got, I don't know how many comments, right? Look at that one right there. Improve the sales for U-Haul, that's Pagans, Looking Glass. Improve the rate it relies on government funding. Improve the amount of money the IRS receives before U-Haul. Keep going to the next one. Keep going to the next one. There's a bunch of different comments there. Obviously, that's one with DeSantis with fetus, which he was showing. Go up a little bit on DeSantis one. Yeah, the poop maps, go a little bit higher, Rob. Yeah, where it says human feces reports are booming in California. Anyways, so the point here becomes it's purely data. It's purely data on what's going on, and nobody could list anything about what the guy's done data-wise. You can like somebody. For instance, imagine if Newsom was your cousin.
My cousin.
If he's your cousin. Imagine if Newsom was somebody you went to high school with, maybe somebody you played football with, and maybe he was a guy that actually blocked for you, and you were a receiver, or he was a tight end, and he protected you, right? Maybe you have some kind of affinity to the guy, and there's some kind of loyalty, because there's a relationship, right? Fine, I get defending because you are friends, cool, but at the end of the day, data's data. 100%. There is nothing one can say on why the #1 state that's lost the most customers ever is Newsom. You know how he says, and this is his famous line, he says, well, California is, California is the 5th largest economy in the world, and, California is the same as the equivalent of 21 states combined, and that's what California, okay, great. You know what he sounds like? The Vanderbilts, he was the richest man in the world, okay? His kids were the snobbiest, sloppiest, you want to call them a spoiled kids that wasted the money. So you can still be rich, but you lost a lot of your daddy's money. Newsom is that billionaire's son whose dad used to be worth $40 billion after he died. Now the son is worth $17 billion, but he says, I'm still one of the richest men in the world at 17. Yeah, but you lost your dad's $23 billion. You lost customers that left your state. There is no other way. There has to be a way to judge somebody's record, right? There has to be, like in sports, how do they judge a big man? I saw a debate between somebody on ESPN with Stephen A. Smith. How do you judge a great center? Based on what? But center comes to rings, right? How do you judge a great podcaster? Based on what?
Views
on what?
Eyeballs.
Subscribership, eyeballs, influence.
Yeah.
How do you judge a great singer? Their
hits,
and what else
live hits, albums sold.
You can say whatever you want about Taylor Swift. We can sit and bitch about the fact that she's gonna, endorse Biden, which she will. And guess what? It's gonna help. Yes. Why though? Because she's got hits. You can Taylor Swift all you want. She made $5 billion from her music last year because she's got data and stats and customers willing to go. I could name you one of her songs. Not one of her songs could I name. But guess what she has? She has stats, right? No matter how much we say about people you don't like, if they have data, you have to be quiet. I'm not a LeBron fan. Guess what? You know what the data backs up? That he's the 2nd greatest player of all time. You have to give him that credit. He is not my favorite guy to watch ever, but he's the 2nd greatest basketball player of all time. Why? Based on what? Based on stats. There's nothing debating that. So when you say Newsom is a winner and you can't name stats, that's when I'm like, I don't know where this discussion is going to go. I flipped it and I started interviewing instead of being a guest on the show.
I love the Vanderbilt reference because you run a sales organization. You've licensed how many agents in your day? PPD?
50,000.
50,000 freaking agents. But the top guys, the 1% of PHP, for example, talking about data, you're talking about results-driven approach. I'm sure you have a guy in the organization that's like, dude, you remember Pat in 2019 when I was the number one guy, and this is what I've done. But where are you at in 2024?
Yeah, of course.
Where are you at in 2024?
Yeah.
The old "what have you done for me lately" approach. The reason that LeBron, to use his name again, still has credibility, this guy's still putting
There's
numbers.
no question about that.
He's still putting up numbers. He got nominated or vote counting 20th All-Star game ever. Broke the record, right?
Yeah.
LeBron, whether you disagree with him or not, he's still putting up results. The Gavin Newsom thing, I think why the Vanderbilt metaphor is so appropriate. It's like he's still clinging to the talking points of how great California was / still is GDP-wise. But if you go through those comments, how many people were able to put together a 3-point cohesive statement of what Gavin Newsom has done? This is the age-old conversation we've had. Personality over politics.
I'm happy you said that.
Ron DeSantis destroyed Gavin Newsom with facts and data in a debate. Yet, Gavin Newsom still won that freaking debate.
100%.
Because politics is entertainment at this point. Yep. You have to win the crowd, as they say in Gladiator, and the crowd ain't looking.
Isn't that kind of not scary? It's kind of dumb if you ask me. Like somebody like a Bill Maher that's just like, he'd 100% vote for Gavin with zero stats.
Oh my God.
Track record. Now, you know what, Adam? You know why? Because it's not Trump.
Dude.
That is at the end of the day, they would rather have somebody that's going to screw them over, but he's not this guy, and that's where the Trump derangement.
You ever seen the movie Original Sin?
Damn.
With Angelina Jolie and
Yeah,
Antonio
I got a long time.
Antonio
Okay, so
Banderas.
what's the issue with that movie? What is the issue? What is the premise of that movie? Antonio cannot leave her because her spell has gotten him. He lost everything, right? She destroyed his life, but he is obsessed with her, right? Sometimes you can be obsessed with somebody that can destroy your life because they are attractive and they're smooth and they're good. Every man's fallen for this before. Every woman has fallen for this before. If you haven't fallen for it before, maybe because the market is not interested.
Yeah.
Odds are you have fallen for this before.
Who was it that compared California to their ex-girlfriend? Was it Mike Mallett?
Mike Mallett.
It's like that ex-girlfriend that you just can't get over. She's
That's
horrible
it's
for
a
you.
great analogy.
She's ruining your life, but you just can't look away.
The last word of Gavin Newsom is
the mountains.
The last word of Gavin Newsom is you got to remember, perception and position is the realm of the politician, and that's all he needs to do. He's got the perception, and that is exactly what Bill Maher was talking about. He's a winner. He's a perception of a winner. He's running for president, which is dangerous because you run on perception and position. He's not running for CEO, which is on results and stats. If he's running for CEO, Ron DeSantis would be leading by 40 points to be president right now. But it's perception and perception, which makes it very dangerous, which is why it's important to be an informed voter and to understand